What do you think about how the media has covered the war?
The camera out of focus. No, it's not. It's not you. It's the camera, and doesn't want to see me for some reason. Hey, I'm here. What's up, camera? Anyhow, I'm out of. Oh yeah, I'm back. Anyhow, point is that coverage has been abysmal. I'm sorry, I'm so negative, but my positivity died last time we spoke. Okay, so it has been pretty bad. Nobody really covers anything in the media on big platforms like journals, things like that, much. So most people, for example, don't know about the drone hunting they do in Kherson at all. I only see a couple of journalists there, and most of them are like freelance YouTuber guys, essentially going there to film stuff. Major people just don't go there, and we have, I think, now hundreds of videos of them attacking people with drones, like straight up hunting them. And nothing is I didn't even see, maybe there is, I'm not saying there isn't, but I haven't seen any major news outlet even talking about this absolutely horrendous thing that is going on there, right? So Izium, for example, got very little coverage, very little coverage comparatively to Bucha, for example. Bucha got quite a bit of coverage, in my opinion, which is good. But but Izium, for example, that was much worse than Bucha didn't. So things like that. For example, Kakhovka Dam explosion, right, was considered to be an ecocide, killed millions of animals, and pretty much destroyed this ecosystem of that region. Like for a very long time, it will not be restored, and nobody talks about it or like talked about it for any significant sort of amount of time at all. And major things like that became kind of like routine as well. So people like, oh, Ukrainians exploding every day in their houses, and nobody really. I mean, yes, it is like kind of like, happens every day. What can you do? But at the same time, like I only see people post on Twitter, for example, me, other Ukrainians, right? Post like, so this night, this high-rise building was destroyed, and all the people there were like injured, killed, or whatever, right? And we post this, but it's not something that that gets much coverage at all. And even like major, horrible stuff, like for example, Okhmatdyt Hospital bombing, that they bombed cancer hospital for children.
Well, I did hear about that
Very,
actually. That was like 2 months ago,
yeah,
3 months ago.
yes, but very little major coverage of that at all. So mostly on Twitter and things like that, sure, but like major news articles, not much, and not much was done, although it was investigated and admitted and proved that it was a deliberate strike with guided missile.
Which
So the
organization?
one that fuck, what was that? Let me. I might send you the link or
Okay.
something. So much stuff is happening, but or Sint and other people, and another one also confirmed it. I think, how it's called, not UN, the other one that is more useful.
European Union Human Rights or whatever.
Maybe, yeah, one
I'm
of
not
those
sure. I'm
European
I'm
right.
not an expert. Or Amnesty International,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Oh, Amnesty is not our biggest fan. Let's put it like that, and we aren't the biggest fan of theirs. But yeah, but that's just. But yeah, there was like, we provided the evidence and we submitted it to the international court and everything, and it has been filmed, the missile itself, which is not always that doesn't always happen, that you can really see the thing on footage. And yeah, and still like, but again, what will happen, what they will do, show more condemnation, like there's nothing like of effect that will stop them from doing things like that. And that's why they do them as well. They do them pretty blatantly because there's just no why not, right? But bombing cancer children is just a little bit too much, in my opinion.
Where do you personally get your information about the war that you trust?
News mostly, like, but also from soldiers themselves as well, videos, things like that. People post on Telegram as well, and there are news channels, international ones, that also Institute of Studying the War, I think they're called. but they said, like, that was them. I remember the ones who said that the missile was guided, and they posted the whole thing. And the Institute of Studying War, I think they called, or something of that sort. They post pretty good information as well, if you want to like an international sort of perspective, not just your own. Or OSINT people as well, like all sorts of things. They all usually post about the movements on the fronts and things like that. But I pretty trust our resources, not fully, but they proven to be relatively okay. So they're usually like things that we report tend to be then confirmed by international organizations and things like that in most cases. So I'd say we're doing pretty good on that front. We also really don't need to exaggerate anything, which is kind of awful and good at the same time, because it's so blatant and so in your face, and there's so much going on that you really don't need to, I don't know, throw crazy numbers like 30,000 people killed in a building numbers. No shade to anyone, or all shade, I guess, like some other people do. You really need to just say the truth, right? Because the truth is enough. Usually the numbers aren't so impressive for some, I guess, because I would post like the residential building was hit, for example. Usually a couple floors collapse. Sometimes, more like whole building falls, but usually it's like a couple floors collapse, right? And if the people were there sleeping, for example, they get buried under the rubble, and all sorts of things usually tend to happen. It takes usually like 24 hours to pick up everyone from the rubble, to find the sometimes you can't really tell, you have to do DNA test to figure out who's the person. For example, in the supermarket explosion in Kharkiv, for example, people were so disintegrated by the explosion that it took like days to figure out who they were at all, right? They have to take like the sample of their DNA from their like kids and like relatives and all sorts of things. So so that is the goal. Basically, you post how it is. It's like 4 people died, 10 injured, right? It's not that massive, but it happens every day. It becomes like sort of a pretty terrible thing. If being bombed in your sleep isn't terrible enough already. So yeah, I guess news in that sense, I usually go for our own news on Telegram mostly, and also I go for international people that I find posting, pretty accurate stuff as well, or analysis like of the war and things like that.
Could you give me an example of good journalism about the war, someone or an organization that you think has done a really good job, and then also one that you think's done a really bad job, and how they've covered things?
When it comes to bad coverage, I'd say usually it comes from like accounts that are doing Russian propaganda, obviously on Twitter or like something like that. So major journalists tend to just not say anything about Ukraine. So it's not that they're doing bad coverage; they're just not doing coverage at all. But when it comes to like examples of obvious trash, I would say, for example, have you heard of Breaking Points? It's like a
Yes,
lefty.
unfortunately, yeah.
Oh, that's a bad example right there, right? If you watch like literally anything they say, it's Russian propaganda or straight up garbage. Just too bad even for Russian propaganda, okay? So one of the major examples would be like their coverage of the Kerch Bridge attack, calling it a terrorist attack, what we did. So this is a logistics bridge that Russians built illegally on occupied territory, and they used it. There are footage of this everywhere of to transfer tanks, artillery, equipment. Nothing is more of a legitimate target than that bridge, okay? So just because a couple civilians were killed that were near the bridge, we also attacked during the night. So in the, when there are less people there than usually are, not during the how Russians do it in the 12 or 1 hour clock. And Breaking Points reported this as a terrorist attack from our end. Same shit they did with the Crimean Beach situation. I don't know if you saw that, but they reported it as if we attacked civilians, Russian Crimean people on the beach specifically to kill them, instead of reporting how it was, which was our missile was hitting their launcher on the beach, above the beach on the hill, right? And you can see it in the footage that the Russian anti-air hits our missile and the debris falls down near the people. So that's unfortunate, obviously, but the war crime here is not us attacking that thing on our occupied Crimea. The crime is putting civilians under it. So Russians should not be allowing civilians to stay on the beach, swimming and having a chill time under the launcher. That's the war crime. You're essentially using them as human shields, is what you're doing. So yes, so that's the crime. But they never spoke about that. They spoke about Ukrainians targeting civilians in Crimea. So that's the example of bad coverage, I'd say, if something like comes to mind immediately. I mean, there are people like Jimmy Dorn, very cursed. There are people like Tim Pool, bad coverage,
Oh
who has been
yes,
literally gaining money from Russia to do bad
yes.
coverage.
I wanted to
Apparently,
ask you.
yeah.
Can I have a few more moments of your time? Thank you again for watching another book interview clip. The full interview is linked in the description. Right now, I need your help. I'm currently running a Kickstarter campaign for my next recently finished book, Champions of Elanthia. Champions of Elanthia is my in-depth exploration of the world of multi-user dungeons, featuring interviews with a dozen Dragon Realms and Gemstone 4 players, telling their stories and preserving gaming history. You can help me bring this project to life for as little as $5, so please back the Kickstarter today and help me fulfill this dream. I'm also happy to report that the people of GamerGate, Volumes 1 and Volumes 2, are now available on Amazon in both Kindle and hardcover formats. Thank you again for your time.